What if the greatest fight you will ever face isn't happening around you, but inside your own mind? Every day, unseen forces clash in your thoughts, pulling you toward fear, doubt, and confusion, even when your heart longs for peace and direction. Why does this inner tension feel so intense, and why does it seem to strike hardest when you're trying to grow, change, or get closer to God? Why do negative thoughts appear without warning, draining your energy and distorting your sense of purpose? This struggle is not accidental, and it's not a sign of failure. Jesus exposed the truth about this mental battle and showed why the mind becomes the primary battlefield of your life, influencing your choices, your emotions, and even your faith. In this video, you'll uncover why this war exists, what truly fuels it, and how Jesus revealed the difference between being ruled by your thoughts and living with spiritual authority over them. You'll begin to recognize patterns that have silently shaped your behavior and learn why awareness is the first step toward freedom. If you felt trapped in repeating mental cycles, weighed down by inner conflict, or exhausted from fighting thoughts that won't let you rest, this message will speak directly to you. Stay until the very end, because understanding this battle will permanently change how you see your mind, your faith, and the direction of your future. If this message resonates with you, stay focused and keep watching. What you're about to learn can bring clarity, peace, and control where there has only been inner conflict. Don't miss the next moments. They may reveal exactly what your mind has been fighting against. Before we go deeper, subscribe to the channel and stay connected. These messages are designed to strengthen your mind, your faith, and your purpose, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Most people believe their greatest struggles are external: money, relationships, missed opportunities, or difficult circumstances. But Jesus consistently pointed to something far deeper: an invisible battle happening inside the mind. Every thought you allow to remain quietly shapes your emotions, influences your decisions, and eventually directs your destiny. That is why two people can face the same situation and walk away with completely different outcomes. One collapses internally while the other grows stronger. The difference is not intelligence, luck, or even willpower. The difference is what happens in the mind before any action ever takes place. This is where the real battle begins. When fear repeats itself daily, when shame replays old mistakes, when anxiety imagines futures that haven't happened yet, the mind becomes a battleground long before life reflects it outwardly. Jesus warned that whatever enters the mind and stays there eventually flows into the heart and then into behavior. In practical terms, this means that if you don't learn to recognize which thoughts you are agreeing with, you will live on autopilot. A simple but powerful daily practice is to notice recurring thoughts instead of reacting to them. Ask yourself, where did this thought come from, and where is it trying to lead me? Awareness is the first act of spiritual authority. The moment you observe a thought instead of obeying it, its power weakens. This truth sets the foundation for everything that follows. The battle is real, it is internal, and it determines far more than most people realize. If an enemy cannot control your life directly, controlling your thoughts is more than enough. Jesus never treated the mind as neutral territory. He spoke repeatedly about thoughts, intentions, and inner motives because he understood something most people overlook: whoever influences the mind controls direction. Temptation does not begin with action. It begins with suggestion. Fear does not start with danger. It starts with imagination. Guilt does not come from the present moment. It comes from remembered failure. This is why the mind is targeted first. When thoughts become unstable, emotions follow, and decisions soon reflect that instability. This explains why someone can wake up motivated and end the day discouraged without anything significant changing externally. The battle happened internally through small, repeated thoughts. Jesus modeled a different response. He questioned thoughts instead of absorbing them. When negative suggestions appeared, he answered with truth instead of emotion. A practical way to apply this is by interrupting mental momentum. When a discouraging thought appears, don't let it finish its story. Stop it mid-sentence. Replace "this will never change" with "this is not finished yet." Replace "I always fail" with "I am still learning." These interruptions may feel small, but they break long-standing cycles. Remember this pattern clearly. Thoughts shape emotions, emotions fuel decisions, decisions build habits, and habits create outcomes. Many habits in your life began as thoughts you never challenged. Jesus also revealed a critical difference that changes everything: the difference between being tempted and being controlled. Temptation appears in the mind, but control only happens when agreement is given. Many people feel guilty for thoughts they never chose, but Jesus never taught guilt for intrusion, only responsibility for agreement. This means the presence of a thought does not define you, your response does. Intrusive thoughts, fears, or doubts are not proof of weakness, they are proof that the battle is active. The danger begins when you start identifying with them. Saying, "I feel afraid," is very different from saying, "I am afraid." One describes a moment, the other defines identity. A powerful daily practice is separating your identity from your mental state. Speak about thoughts as temporary experiences, not permanent truths. This shift alone reduces emotional pressure. Jesus lived from identity first, not emotion first. He knew who he was before responding to what he felt. As you practice this, you'll notice how many thoughts lose power simply because you refuse to wear them as identity. A thought may visit, but it does not have permission to live there. Jesus didn't reveal this difference as a theological concept only. He revealed it as a practical skill, a true inner gift anyone can learn to use. The moment you understand that a thought is not a command, you regain authority. Most people suffer because they treat every thought as if it carries truth, urgency, and identity. Jesus showed another way. Thoughts are invitations, not obligations. In everyday life, this means when a sudden fear appears, something bad is going to happen, you don't panic or argue emotionally. You simply recognize it as an unchosen suggestion. That pause is the gift. For example, when anxiety hits before an important conversation, instead of saying, "I can't handle this," you say, "This is a thought, not a prophecy." That simple reframing prevents emotional escalation. The same applies to guilt. When the mind replays past mistakes, many assume repentance means reliving shame, but Jesus never modeled that. He acknowledged failure without living inside it. Practically, when a memory surfaces, you name it, "This already happened, and it does not define my present." This breaks the loop. With intrusive thoughts, instead of suppressing them, which strengthens them, you observe them calmly and let them pass without reaction. Over time, the mind learns that these thoughts no longer produce emotional reward. This is mastery. Jesus demonstrated this by responding with truth, not force. You can apply this daily by mentally labeling experiences. This is fear, this is insecurity, this is exhaustion speaking. Labels reduce intensity. The more you practice separating observation from agreement, the more stable your inner world becomes. This is how the gift works at its highest level. Not by eliminating thoughts, but by choosing which ones are allowed to shape your identity, your emotions, and your decisions. One of the enemy's most effective strategies is silence. When you don't name what's happening in your mind, it grows unchecked. Jesus spoke openly about internal struggles because exposure removes fear. In daily life, silence often looks like internalizing stress, hiding anxiety, and pretending strength while slowly breaking internally. The mind thrives in secrecy because what is never named is never challenged. A practical application of this truth is verbalizing thoughts, either through journaling or by speaking them aloud in a safe space. When you externalize a thought, you begin to see it clearly instead of feeling trapped inside it. Many thoughts lose credibility the moment they are spoken. This is why prayer, reflection, and honest conversation are such powerful tools. They don't magically erase problems, but they dramatically reduce distortion. Keep this loop clearly in mind. Unspoken thoughts gain power, but exposed thoughts lose it. Silence is not neutral, and Jesus made this clear through the way he confronted both internal and external resistance. When thoughts remain unspoken, they do not stay small, they multiply. What is hidden in the mind begins to feel heavier, more convincing, and more dangerous than it truly is. Jesus consistently brought things into the open, not to amplify them, but to dismantle their power. This reveals a powerful inner skill, naming what's happening before it names you. In daily life, this means learning to speak about your thoughts before they turn into emotional conclusions. For example, instead of silently carrying stress throughout the day, you pause and say, even softly, "I'm feeling overwhelmed right now." That single sentence creates distance between you and the emotion, reminding you that the feeling is something you are experiencing, not something you are. Another practical use of this gift is journaling without editing yourself. When you write exactly what you're thinking, fears, doubts, frustration, anger, you expose exaggerations that felt logical in silence. Many people discover that once written down, their thoughts lose authority. Jesus showed that exposure is not weakness, it is strategy. This principle also applies to prayer and honest conversation. Speaking your thoughts aloud interrupts their emotional momentum, because the mind processes spoken words differently than silent ones. This is why calm articulation reduces anxiety. A simple daily practice is setting aside 5 minutes to verbalize your mental state without trying to fix it, explain it, or justify it, just naming it. Over time, this habit prevents emotional buildup. Another example is when facing a recurring fear, say it clearly, then counter it with truth. I'm afraid of failing, but fear is not a prediction. This creates balance. Silence feeds distortion, but expression restores proportion. When you use this gift consistently, thoughts begin losing their grip faster, emotional recovery becomes quicker, and inner clarity feels more natural instead of forced. Jesus also understood that fatigue was not always physical. Mental exhaustion often comes from fighting the same thoughts repeatedly without strategy. When your mind is constantly defending against fear, comparison, or guilt, it drains emotional energy even when life appears manageable on the surface. This explains burnout that seems to come out of nowhere. A practical step here is scheduling mental rest, intentional moments where you stop rehearsing problems. Silence, focused breathing, and short reflective pauses throughout the day reset the mind. This is not avoidance, it is maintenance. As you apply this, you will notice how clarity increases when the mind is rested. Mental fatigue weakens resistance, but rest restores authority. Mental patterns do not exhaust you all at once, they wear you down quietly through repetition. Jesus understood that spiritual fatigue often comes from carrying the same unresolved thoughts day after day. When the mind is constantly alert, defending itself against imagined threats, replaying conversations, or anticipating negative outcomes, it drains emotional strength faster than physical effort ever could. This reveals another inner gift, the ability to rest the mind on purpose. Many people believe rest is earned only after everything is resolved, but Jesus demonstrated rest as a discipline, not a reward. Practically, this means interrupting mental overwork before it turns into burnout. For example, when you notice your thoughts looping, replaying the same worry again and again, you consciously step out of the loop and say, "I've already thought about this enough for today." That sentence alone sets a boundary. Another daily application is scheduling intentional mental pauses. This can be as simple as stopping for 60 seconds, closing your eyes, and breathing slowly while releasing the need to solve anything. Jesus often withdrew briefly, not because problems were gone, but because clarity required space. Another powerful practice is reducing mental multitasking. When your attention is scattered across too many concerns, fatigue multiplies. Choose to focus fully on one task at a time. This conserves emotional energy. Be mindful of emotional overconsumption as well. Constant news, negative conversations, and comparison-heavy content silently feed mental exhaustion. Limit input and replace it with moments of stillness or reflection. Over time, These small acts restore strength. The gift here is learning that not every thought deserves engagement. Rest is not avoidance, it is maintenance. When the mind is rested, discernment sharpens, reactions soften, and emotional resilience grows naturally. Repetition builds belief, and Jesus used repetition intentionally because he understood the mind learns through reinforcement. This works both positively and negatively. What you repeat mentally becomes familiar, and familiarity begins to feel like truth. A practical application is choosing one grounding truth to repeat daily, especially during moments of stress. Short phrases repeated consistently rewire emotional responses. Keep repeating what strengthens you, not what scares you. Repetition is one of the most underestimated forces shaping the human mind, and Jesus used it with precision. He knew the mind accepts what it hears repeatedly, especially during moments of uncertainty, stress, or vulnerability. This reveals a powerful inner gift, the ability to train your mind through intentional repetition instead of unconscious rehearsal. Most people repeat what they fear without realizing it. The same internal phrases, "I'm not enough," "this won't work," "nothing ever changes," become background noise, and over time the mind accepts them as truth. Jesus modeled the opposite. He repeated truth until it became instinctive. Practically, this means choosing a small number of stabilizing statements and returning to them daily. For example, during moments of anxiety, repeating a grounding phrase like, "I am not alone in this," calms the nervous system and refocuses the mind. Another application is interrupting negative repetition with conscious redirection. When you catch yourself replaying a failure, you do not argue emotionally with the thought. You replace the loop entirely by saying, "That moment is over and I'm moving forward." The key is consistency, not intensity. Calm repetition is more effective than emotional affirmations. Jesus also used repetition through questions, forcing the mind to shift perspective. You can apply this by asking, "Is this thought helping me or harming me?" and returning to that question daily. Over time, your mind begins filtering automatically. Another powerful example is using repetition before sleep, when the mind is most suggestible. Ending the day by repeating peaceful truths reduces nighttime anxiety and improves mental recovery. This gift works best when repetition is intentional, gentle, and consistent. What you repeat becomes familiar, what becomes familiar shapes belief, and what you believe quietly directs the course of your life. Breaking cycles requires more than controlling reactions, it requires understanding origins. Jesus never treated symptoms alone. He addressed roots because he knew behavior is always the final expression of something deeper. Anxiety, anger, fear, insecurity, and discouragement are rarely the true problem. They are signals pointing to beliefs operating quietly beneath the surface. This reveals a powerful inner gift, discernment of roots instead of obsession with symptoms. In daily life, this means when an emotion rises, you stop asking, "How do I get rid of this feeling?" and begin asking, "What belief is feeding this reaction?" For example, recurring anxiety often traces back to a hidden belief like, "I'm not safe," or "If I lose control, everything will fall apart." Once that belief is identified, the emotion loses its mystery and intensity. Anger works the same way. Many people try to suppress anger, but Jesus addressed what was underneath it: fear, wounded identity, or the need to protect self-worth. When irritation shows up, pause and ask, "What am I protecting right now?" That single question exposes the root. Over time, this practice trains you to recognize patterns instead of being surprised by emotions. If discouragement appears every time progress slows, the belief might be, "If I'm not moving fast, I'm failing." Naming that belief allows you to challenge it directly. Jesus didn't fight emotions. He corrected beliefs with truth. A practical habit is writing down repeating emotional triggers and tracing them back to a common belief. Once exposed, you intentionally replace that belief with a healthier one. This is how cycles break, not through force, but through understanding. When roots are healed, symptoms naturally weaken. This isn't emotional avoidance, it's emotional intelligence. The more honest you become with your internal beliefs, the freer and clearer your mind becomes. Focus determines intensity. What you stare at mentally grows emotionally. Jesus demonstrated this constantly, not by denying reality, but by choosing perspective. This reveals another inner gift, the ability to direct focus instead of being hijacked by it. Most mental suffering doesn't come from what happens, but from how long the mind stays attached to it. When the mind fixates on fear, fear grows larger than reality. When it fixates on problems, solutions feel smaller. Jesus never lingered mentally where fear wanted him to stay. Practically, this means setting boundaries for your thoughts. For example, when facing a challenge, give yourself a defined window to think about it, plan, and reflect, then consciously release it. You might say, "I'll think about this for 15 minutes, then I'll move forward." This prevents spirals. Another daily application is redirecting focus through physical grounding. When thoughts race, shift attention to breathing, posture, or your surroundings. This anchors the mind back into the present moment. Jesus often redirected focus by asking questions like, "Why are you afraid?" You can apply this by asking yourself, "Is what I'm focusing on helping me right now?" Control of focus also means controlling input. Constant negative news, comparison-driven content, and emotional overload train the mind to expect danger. Replace that with intentional gratitude by listing what is stable, what is improving, and what you can influence. Focus grows whatever it touches. When you train this gift, emotional intensity decreases, clarity increases, and decisions become calmer. Focus mastery doesn't remove challenges. It prevents them from ruling your inner world. Authority flows from awareness. Jesus carried calm authority because he was deeply aware. Awareness prevents overreaction. The moment you notice a thought or emotional shift, you regain choice. This reveals one of the most practical inner gifts, the power of the pause. Reaction hands control to emotion. Awareness takes it back. In daily life, this begins with noticing physical signals: tightened shoulders, shallow breathing, clenched jaw. These are early warnings that a reaction is forming. When you notice them, you pause. That pause is power. In a tense conversation, instead of responding immediately, you breathe slowly and say, "Let me think for a moment." That single delay protects clarity and prevents regret. Jesus often paused before speaking, even under pressure. Another daily application is practicing delayed response in small moments so it becomes instinctive in bigger ones. When irritated by minor inconveniences, slow your reaction intentionally. Over time, your nervous system learns safety in stillness. Awareness also applies to emotional shifts. When your mood drops suddenly, instead of identifying with it, you name it, "Something shifted just now." Naming creates space. Another powerful practice is briefly reviewing your day, noticing moments where awareness helped and moments where it was lost, without judgment. Authority grows through repetition, not perfection. The more aware you become, the less reactive you feel, and the more grounded your decisions become. Awareness doesn't eliminate emotion, it places you above it. This is how inner stability becomes consistent instead of occasional. As this teaching comes to a close, hold this question open in your mind. If the real battle is happening internally, what would change if you trained your mind instead of fearing it? Jesus often left people with questions because he understood that the mind moves in the direction of what it asks repeatedly. Fear-based questions shrink perception, but purpose-driven questions expand it. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" begin asking, "What is this revealing about how I think?" In moments of setback, hold the question, "What response here strengthens me instead of shrinking me?" That question quietly reshapes behavior. Another daily practice is ending your day with one intentional question instead of replaying problems. Ask, "Where did I gain clarity today?" or "Which thought had less power over me than before?" These questions reinforce growth without pressure. You can also use this gift during conflict by holding the question, what outcome actually matters here? Over time, the questions you carry shape your inner climate. This is how the mental battle shifts from chaos to intention. You stop fighting every thought and begin guiding your mind forward. The right question doesn't demand immediate answers. It trains your mind to move in a healthier direction. This is how inner resistance becomes strength, clarity replaces exhaustion, and the battle in the mind becomes a place of transformation instead of struggle. If this message brought clarity to your mind, subscribe to the channel now. More teachings like this are coming, and staying connected will help you keep training your mind with purpose, awareness, and strength. As you begin applying these principles in real life, something important inevitably happens. Resistance shows up inside your own mind. Jesus warned that growth is often followed by inner pushback, not because something is wrong, but because old mental patterns do not surrender control easily. The mind clings to what is familiar, even when what is familiar is painful. This is why, right after moments of clarity, thoughts like, "This won't last," "You'll go back to how you were," or "This is too good to be true," suddenly appear. Many people stop here, believing resistance means failure, when in reality it is evidence of movement. A practical way to use this understanding is to expect resistance instead of fearing it. When discouraging thoughts surface, you calmly name them, "This is resistance, not truth." That naming alone prevents panic. Jesus didn't scramble when challenged. He stayed anchored in what he already knew. You can do the same by returning to proven truths instead of chasing emotional reassurance. Another practical application is choosing consistency over intensity. Don't attempt to change everything at once. Apply one principle daily until it becomes natural. Resistance weakens when it's not fed with urgency or drama. Discomfort during change is not a warning sign, it is a transition signal. Jesus also never wasted emotional reactions. He treated them as indicators, not enemies. Every emotional trigger points to something unfinished or unexamined in the mind. Instead of suppressing reactions, you learn to extract information from them. For example, if criticism immediately triggers anger, the real question isn't, "Why am I angry?" but "What belief just felt threatened?" Often, the answer is identity or self-worth. Practically, when a trigger hits, you pause and mentally step back, saying, "Something important is being touched here." That pause turns reaction into insight. Over time, triggers lose their grip because they are no longer mysterious. Jesus responded calmly because he understood his inner landscape. You develop that same clarity by reviewing triggers without judgment, allowing awareness to transform reactions into tools instead of traps. The goal is not to eliminate emotional struggle, but to shorten recovery time. Jesus experienced emotions but never remained trapped inside them. Emotional recovery is a skill that can be trained. Practically, this means noticing how long you stay emotionally stuck after stress and intentionally reducing that time. Instead of carrying frustration all day, you decide to release it after 10 minutes. You might take a short walk, breathe deeply, or redirect focus to something grounding. This trains the nervous system to return to balance faster. With repetition, what once took hours takes minutes. This is mastery, not suppression, feeling fully without getting lost. Jesus also made it clear that isolation weakens the mind. He never treated isolation as strength because when the mind battles alone, distortion grows. Fear sounds louder in isolation. A practical application is choosing at least one safe outlet for honest expression, a trusted person, journaling, or spoken reflection. This prevents thoughts from exaggerating unchecked. Even brief connection resets perspective. Jesus modeled shared processing because strength grows in connection, not secrecy. Another crucial skill is separating urgency from importance. Many thoughts demand immediate attention, but few are truly important. Jesus refused to be ruled by urgency. Practically, when a thought feels pressing, ask, Is this actually important right now? That single question dissolves much of anxiety. Learning this separation reduces pressure and sharpens judgment. Urgency clouds thinking. Calm clarifies it. Jesus lived with rhythm, action and rest, engagement and withdrawal, and the mind requires the same structure. Build simple daily anchors, a grounding moment in the morning, a mental reset midday, and reflection in the evening. These rhythms prevent emotional buildup. Small, consistent practices stabilize the mind far more effectively than dramatic changes. Mental growth often feels invisible. Jesus warned that seeds grow underground before they break the surface. You may feel unchanged while actually becoming stronger. A practical habit is tracking small wins, quicker emotional recovery, calmer responses, clearer thinking. These are real signs of growth. Do not measure progress by emotional intensity alone. Peace, as Jesus demonstrated, is not passivity. He was peaceful and decisive. Practically, choosing peace means acting without inner chaos. Decisions made from calm awareness are clearer and more effective. Peace doesn't remove courage, it sharpens it. At the center of everything, Jesus always returned to identity. When identity is secure, thoughts lose leverage. A daily practice is reaffirming who you are before facing challenges. Identity stabilizes emotion, clarifies decisions, and serves as the strongest defense in the mental battle. As this section comes together, hold this truth clearly. Your mind is not your enemy. It is territory to be trained. The battle becomes lighter when skill replaces fear, and freedom becomes consistent instead of occasional. As you apply everything you've learned, one truth becomes clear. Your mind was never meant to be a prison, it was meant to be trained. Resistance will appear, emotional reactions will surface, and old patterns will try to pull you back, but none of that means you are failing. It means change is happening. When the mind resists, you learn to recognize it without fear. When discouraging thoughts show up, you name them instead of obeying them. When emotions rise, you treat them as information, not commands. In daily life, this looks like pausing before reacting, choosing not to replay a negative conversation, deciding to release frustration instead of carrying it all day, and asking better questions when stress appears. It looks like setting mental boundaries, limiting how long you dwell on problems, grounding yourself through breathing or movement, and returning to calm clarity instead of urgency. Over time, recovery becomes faster, reactions become softer, and awareness becomes instinctive. You stop isolating with your thoughts and choose expression instead. You stop chasing emotional certainty and start trusting trained stability. Peace no longer means avoidance, it means acting without inner chaos. Identity becomes your anchor, not emotion, not circumstance, not fear. This is how the battle in the mind shifts, not through force, but through skill, repetition, and understanding. Freedom stops being occasional and becomes consistent. And when you realize that your mind is not your enemy but a field you can cultivate, everything changes. If this message spoke to you, don't stop here. Subscribe to the channel and stay connected, because the next videos will help you continue strengthening your mind, your faith, and your daily walk. Share this with someone who needs clarity, and stay with us. Your mind is learning a new way to live.